Hi, everyone. Welcome to Heart, Mom and Me. I'm Randi, mom, writer, and the author of From the Heart of a Mother.
And I'm Brielle, her 13-year-old co-host and her daughter.
So we wanted to start this podcast because these years, the tween and teen years, they're just full of change and emotion for both mom and kids.
And sometimes it's hard to really talk about what we're feeling or what's going on in our lives.
So we're dedicating this space to have these heart-to-heart talks, the kind that remind us we're all learning and growing together. In each episode, we're going to talk about real topics: friendship, confidence, boundaries,
And crushes.
mental health, family, and everything in between.
Sometimes we'll laugh, sometimes we might cry, but we'll always keep it real.
So this first episode, Brielle got to pick the topic, and we're just diving right in and talking about
Crushes.
relationships, all those things. Brielle's going to share a little bit about her perspective from a 13-year-old, and then I'm going to dive in and kind of share my perspective about it.
I am very boy crazy. I have crushes on guys every day, and I think about them, you guessed it, every day. But there's one guy that stood out in particular to me just a couple months ago. So there's this guy in my school who I really like. I think he's really cute. He isn't actually an actor, and he's just so mature for his age, and he's really nice. And I started feeling really attracted to him. At first, I just thought of him as only a friend and invited him to join my friend group. He didn't want to because he doesn't like big social groups. He likes one-on-one. I can relate to that. And eventually, I started gaining feelings for him, and I told my friend, and then my friend tried to help me out, and we both told my crush that I liked him. He gave me a very mature speech, sort of, about like, I don't like you back in that way because I just don't, and I think you're a really cool person, but I want to end this now because I don't want to get into something that might hurt me or you, and I just want to keep things just as friends, and that's it. And at first, I was really hurt. At first, I cried a lot. But I started to actually think about what he said, and I started to back up a bit, and I started to just treat him as a friend. And I mean, when I told him I liked him, he started getting very freaked out by me and wouldn't sit near me. But then I backed off, like I said, and he started coming more to me. We started to joke around a lot in the classes we had together since I'm in 7th grade and he's in 8th grade. And we just became pretty good friends. And there's always going to be a part of me that wants him to like me as a crush. But I know that might not happen. But I always daydream that when my mom actually lets me, I will date him.
So I think that's one of the things that a lot of us can relate to. And I think sometimes our daughters forget that us moms were once teens, we were once tweens. Like, we get crushes. Well, we got crushes. I'm happily married. We got crushes, and we understand what it feels like I think we can all relate to liking someone and wanting them to like us back. And so the conversation that Brielle and I have been having is that she wants to like dive right in, and tell me if I'm wrong, Brielle, but you like want to dive right in and you want these boys to like you, and you think this is the beginning of like a love story out of a Taylor Swift song. And I'm just like, okay, well, you need to slow down a little bit because you're still young, you have time. And each time that you have these crushes, you feel like, tell me what, like you feel like each time like this is just the beginning of a beautiful romance, and each one is like you put your whole heart into it and think that you're going to live happily ever after with them. And I just want you to slow down and kind of put it in perspective that it's okay to like a guy, but that doesn't mean that every guy that you like you have to pursue a relationship with.
You're correct.
Well, which part? About the fact that each guy you like, you think that you're having a big romance with, or about that you could slow down?
Mostly the first one and the second one.
Okay. So I feel like, especially with this particular thing, when you're in school and you like boys and then the boys don't like you back, a lot of times the fact that this boy actually sat you down and had a talk with you and told you that he didn't feel the same way, I thought that was really mature. I mean, I know that when I liked boys growing up, a lot of times I didn't have the courage to even tell them that I like them. So I give you so much credit for being brave enough to say that. But to have them sit down and have a mature conversation with you, especially when you said he's in 8th grade, that blew my mind. Like, that is very mature for his age. But I think that part of it is just that at this age, like, girls tend to go through puberty for boys, and we'll talk about puberty and all that fun stuff in another episode. But I think a lot of times it's just that boys don't really know what to do with those feelings yet, or don't even have those feelings yet. So girls are starting to have these crushes, and boys are still like, ew, girls, eek. I want to just hang out with my boys. And so, what did I tell you? That he's interested in what?
He's interested in his guy friends and 13-year-old boy stuff.
Exactly. So if you're a girl and you're wanting to hang out with him, he's still in that stage where he doesn't know how to feel about you and he doesn't really like you, or if he does like you, he doesn't know what to do with those feelings yet. So I think a lot of times it's frustrating because you like these boys and you want something to happen. But I mean, a lot of times boys aren't even mature enough to have relationships until way older than that. You're gonna have to deal with this, unfortunately, for years where you're gonna like these boys and they're just gonna, even if they do like you and reciprocate those feelings, they are not gonna be ready to have a relationship. And as your mom, I'm not ready for you to have those relationships yet.
Eek.
Eek. Like, I'm not ready for you to have those relationships yet because I don't want you to get hurt. Because at this point, you're just like, it's too early to have relationships. I know that you're ready for those things. Boys are not. And I've said this many times, and I know that this is something that you roll your eyes when I say it. But do have your whole life to have those kind of things and have those relationships. And that's not something that you need to at 13. She's rolling her eyes as I'm talking. At 13, you don't need to be having those kind of relationships.
I understand. But there is also another problem I've been having.
What's that?
Well, as I mentioned to you before, I have a really big friend group, and it consists of, including me, 3 girls, and not including me, 3 guys. And I am mostly closer with the guys and the girls because they're just more mature, I guess. And it's kind of a problem because, well, originally I met my first best friend at like the beginning of the school year, and then
But we should mention that this is your first year at this school. So go ahead.
yes. And then I met my other 2 best friends at the school beginning of the school year. But the problem is, 2 out of my 3 best friends, who were guys, have a huge crush on me. So one of them I've known since the very beginning, and he's gone sometimes too far, but he's a really nice
What do
guy.
you mean by too far?
Like, he's tried to ask me to, like, hold his hand, or
Like he's been very obvious that he likes you.
yes, and he's, like, sat really close to me at lunch, or he, like, wanted to touch my hair.
He wants to touch your hair?
Yes,
He asked to touch your hair?
many times.
Well, okay, for those of you that do not know, she actually does have really pretty hair, although that is an interesting request, to put it mildly. But she does have pretty hair, so I want to touch your hair, but that's another story. Go ahead.
And then the other best friend who has a crush on me, he told me, like, it was like a week ago. He told me that he's liked me ever since we first met, but he knows how to keep his emotions down, and he now likes me as a friend more than a crush. But I think he still has a little bit of a crush on me.
So what do you tell? Like, what have you said to these boys that well, what do you say, first of all, when they tell you they have crushes on you? And what did you say particularly to the boy that said he wanted to hold your hand and touch your hair?
Well, when they said they had a crush on me, I was like, okay, that's cool. You can have a crush on me. That's fine. But I just want you to know I'm not allowed to date yet. So I don't want you to think that you can get all excited about these relationships that are not going to happen. So I don't want you to get hurt.
It's good that you were honest with them. And what did you say to the boy that asked you to, did he ask you to touch your hair and hold your hand after you already told him that nothing was going to happen?
Yes, I've told him that many times, but he still goes on because he is really intense. But not to mention he like has crushes on lots of girls, but then goes back to me. So
So what did you say to him when did he just come over to you and say, "Hey, I want to touch your hair"?
yes,
He
like
just came out of
we were
nowhere.
sitting at lunch together, like with our friend group, and then he said, "Hey, can I touch your hair?" And I'm like, "Oh."
Did you say it like that?
He
And what did he do?
was like, "Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Sometimes I get very weird." And I thought to myself, "You think?"
Okay, well, at least he was able to admit that that was an unusual request. And I'm proud of you for speaking up because I know it's hard when someone asks you a question out of left field, especially a question like that you could not possibly prepare yourself for, that it's hard to be able to say no. And it's important that females remember that we absolutely have the power to say no and not put ourselves in situations, whether we're teens, tweens, or adults put ourselves in situations that make us uncomfortable. So I'm always talking to Brielle about the importance of speaking up and saying no in a situation that just feels wrong to her. So I'm proud of you for saying no
Thank
and
you.
not giving in to his particular request about touching your hair. So that's great that you did that. So ever since you've done that, has he continued to want to hang around you or has it been awkward?
Well, I told the guidance counselor at our school about what he said about him touching my hair and wanting to hold my hand, which happened outside in front of a bunch of people.
Gosh.
But it's okay. I wasn't embarrassed. It was just I was like, no, thank you
So you spoke to the guidance counselor for what purpose?
for both requests, and then
Because he asked you again. So that wasn't the
yeah,
first time. So after
yes.
he asked you again, you spoke to a guidance counselor.
Yes,
Good
and then
for you.
thank you. And then she brought him in here and then we had a talk about like, you can't do these things. I know you mean well, but I don't want you to get hurt because I am not allowed to be in a relationship right now.
You told him this.
Yes, and the guidance counselor kind of said a little bit of it for me since I was nervous.
Right.
But he backed off and it hasn't been awkward. We're still good friends. And I think he still has those romantic feelings for me, but he's backed off and he has been acting like normal.
So again, I'm really proud of you for saying no and for going to a teacher and for letting them know that, hey, this situation makes me uncomfortable. Because just because someone likes you, it doesn't give them the right to request things that make you uncomfortable, particularly having to do with touch or anything like that.
Exactly.
So I'm glad that you went to a teacher and said something. And I'm glad, I mean, that's part of the problem. And that's one of the things that I've talked with you about how it's really hard at any age, but particularly in the teen years, to have friendships with boys. Because, like, think about it. The friends that are boys, I was about to say your boyfriends, but that would come off wrong. The friends that are boys, you have one of them. Well, no, not counting your crush as one of those boys, but he's your friend, right?
Yeah, we're
Okay.
friends.
So you have one of them that you like that he doesn't like you. And then you have two of them that you don't like, but they like you. And so it's really hard for boys and girls to be friends with each other. Because in the early years, it's like you guys, well, besides you, you have been boy crazy since you were like two. Typically, boys and girls, when they're little, they hang out, they do whatever, and they don't think about each other as boys or girls or whatever. Then, as you get older and then you start to develop these feelings and these crushes, just becomes awkward because it's like, oh, well, I'm a girl and you're my friend and you're a boy and we're friends, but I kind of like you that way. Or the boy thinks, oh, well, you're a girl and I kind of like you that way. And so how do you get past those feelings when you're friends and like it's sometimes hard, those feelings get in the way. And that's why I've told you that it's okay to have friends that are boys, but it's really important to just remember that they're your friends and not to kind of let that get in the way of your friendships, especially when you're in a new situation and like these are kids that you've only known for a few months. I want you to just enjoy being friends with them and not allow any romantic feelings to get in the way of that.
I understand.
So, I mean, I think that that's an important thing to remember. And that's also why I want you to wait for the whole dating thing because boys and girls are just at completely different stages of their lives, developmentally and emotionally and psychologically and all that stuff. And so it's important that at this point, just to focus more on the just being friends with them. So I guess that leads me to this question as I'm talking about it. Brielle, do you think it is possible and I'm talking about now in these years where boys and girls start to have feelings for each other. Do you think it's possible for girls and boys to just be friends when a lot of times there's going to be these romantic feelings involved?
That's a good question. To be honest, I think anyone can be friends with each other as long as no one's like using any physical violence or anything. But it can get awkward when you have friends that like you, but you don't like them back, and someone else you like, but they don't like you back, like a love triangle. I think that like like I said, anyone can be friends. You just have to put the effort into it.
What about, do you feel like your friendships are now like the friendships you made originally with them? Now that you know that those two guys have crushes on you, do you feel like you guys can continue to be friends in the same way you were before? And the boy that you have a crush on that has told you that he doesn't like you in that way, do you feel like you can have a platonic relationship? So platonic meaning that it's just there's no romance involved, it's just friendship. Do you think that's possible for you with those two boys and with that boy that you have a crush on?
Mostly yes, because I mean, as long as they're not too like the guys that have a crush on me, as long as they're not too intense or they just act normal, but they keep they can like how do I say this? Like they can still have a crush on me, but they can't like go yeah. So as long as they keep it steady and balanced
Boundaries.
in boundaries, yes, we can totally it can still continue to be friends. And the guy that I like, I think, yes, we already are pretty good friends. We joke around a lot. So I think we can continue being friends and I can keep my feelings shoved down most of the time.
So when you say your feelings shut down, you mean just like those romantic feelings to
Yes.
keep them balanced and respect. 'Cause boundaries go both ways, right? Like you're
Yeah.
setting boundaries for your friends that have crushes in you and saying we can be friends, just nothing romantic. And
Yes.
then he set boundaries for you, this other boy, and said we can be friends, but nothing romantic.
Correct.
So you feel like as long as there are those boundaries there, boys and girls can be friends.
Yes.
So I think that's amazing. I think it seems complicated for sure. Growing up, I didn't have boys that were my friends. I had boys that I had crushes on, or boys that had crushes on me. But we didn't really hang out daily the way that you do with your friends. So I think if you're able to and you're able to continue to have those boundaries, I think that's great. And I give you a lot of credit. I'm curious for those people that are listening, if you've had any situations where you've had crushes or people have had crushes on you, if you guys were able to stay friends and how you navigated those relationships. And moms, I'd love to know your thoughts on your kids in terms of having friends that are people that they have crushes on or the other way around, like how you dealt with that. And so I think this was a really great conversation. Brielle, thank you for sharing these perspectives. And this was a really great episode. And next week, we're going to dive into some more topics. Thank you so much for listeners for being here. And we will talk to you soon.
Bye.